Hey y'all, welcome back to Brianna's Bachelor Breakdown. I'm Brianna, your Bachelor Relationship Analyst. So, we all know why we're here. Michelle's season premiere, so excited. She looks so great. I love her so much. And on this recap, we're going to be getting into, obviously, everything about her premiere. We're going to be diving into the whole Joe situation, the Ryan debacle, Nayte and his interactions, and then going over some highlights from some of the more notable limo entrances. So let's go ahead and get into it. As always, I'll have timestamps in the description, so feel free to skip around as you would like. So y'all, I cannot tell you how excited I am to have Michelle as the lead. I feel like she's the first person, really since Tayshia, I guess, who I've just been like excited about as a person, as the lead. I feel like she's like super accomplished in her field. She's obviously good at what she does. She's passionate about teaching and her kids. She's down to earth. I like that she knows what she stands for and that she has, it seems like, a set of values that really keep her grounded. But at the same time, she's not afraid to speak up about them. Like, I like that she's not afraid to talk about issues that affect the Black community or issues that she, you know, has had to navigate with her students and teaching in regards to all the strife that we've all been through in the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement and things of that nature. And so I've just really loved how open she is, but also how, like, just genuine and authentic of a person she is. I know she has a good head on her shoulders. I trust her to make a lot of good decisions throughout her journey and really pick out the man who's gonna be best for her by her side. So to start off with my new tradition of the best tweet of the night, here I have: men have no shame. They will literally ghost you in an audition for your season of The Bachelorette. And I feel like that is a perfect segue into everything that was going on with Joe. So, first things first, he comes out of the limo, they have a little meet and greet, whatever. Michelle's like, oh, do I know you from somewhere? And he's kind of like trying to play it off. He's like, I don't know, I'm also from Minnesota, like, ooh. Which is just like, just say it. Like, you obviously know, like, if someone says that to you, there's a 95% chance that they do recognize you, and you would know, I would hope that you remember when you exchange DMs with Michelle Young. So that shouldn't be something that you're like, is not in your memory as you're literally on her season, as you're there to meet her. Whatever. So he's over there, he's like, listen, I don't know, whatever. She's like, oh, is your name Joe Coleman? He's like, yeah, that's me. And then he goes inside, and then Michelle makes it her business to pull him as soon as she can. And my whole thing is, if he was really into her, like, she says she slid into his DMs, right? So I'm not saying that he was trying to pursue her initially or whatever. But if he's really into her enough to go on to The Bachelorette, why would you not use the access that you had to her, the direct access that you had to her when it was available? Instead of now, he's like, oh, well, instead of just using this pathway to her DMs that she opened up for me, I would rather just go and compete for her love against 30 other men and have the potential of, number one, not getting one-on-one time. Because if you ask someone on a date in real life, they're not gonna be like, oh wait, let me ask 5 other guys that you don't know to join me on this date. Like, no, like, it's gonna be a one-on-one date, so he would have guaranteed one-on-one time with her if she had agreed to go out with him in Minnesota. He's giving up that. He's also pretty much giving up control over the relationship, right? Like, as a contestant, the only decision you can make is to either stay or leave. You can't really decide whether or not you're gonna get picked at the end. So he's giving up that control, and you definitely have 10 times more control over your own relationships one-on-one when they're in real life. So it's not adding up. It's not clicking. Whatever. Michelle obviously confronts him about it, and she's like, hey, like, what was going on? Why did you ghost me? And it sounds as though this might have been happening in 2020, because he's like, oh yeah, like, I had a lot of properties in the George Floyd area, and there was a lot of, like, tension going on in my residential area, so I had to, like, take care of that. I wasn't really available to anyone at that point in time. And she's basically like, listen, just say that. Like, I don't need to know all these backstories, all these details. Like, okay, I didn't know you. I wasn't looking for you to, like, suddenly be my boyfriend based off of 3 DMs. But if you're gonna ghost me, like, just say that. And I totally get where she's coming from in the sense of, like, why would you, like I said, why would you not use that access to her, ghost her, and then show up on her season of The Bachelorette? At no point in his mind did it occur to him to be like, let me, instead of jumping through all these hoops to get a chance with her, let me just not. Like, that never occurred to him, apparently. So after they kind of acknowledge what happens, and Michelle makes it clear that she wishes that he had just said something, she also expresses that she has a little bit of fear that he will shut down again if he's faced with something in his life, or if there is another impasse that he can't communicate through. And he, you know, he says that's valid. He recognizes that that's something he needs to work on. He expresses that he's been going to therapy in an effort to improve his communication skills. And at this point in time, Michelle seems very on the fence about what sort of decision she will make with Joseph. But ultimately, fast forward to the rose ceremony, she seems to have a lot of internal strife. Again, she doesn't really know what she's going to do with him. Because also they haven't really had any conversation. Like, obviously, yeah, they talked about this whole DM situation, but, like, she doesn't really know what his personality is. So since she decides to keep him, it's really just off the hope of, like, I hope that you're interesting. Like, it's not really off of, like, we had a conversation tonight and we really clicked, because they really started off with conflict, essentially. But she decides to keep him. One thing that also struck me as odd about this situation is Joe's reaction after they had their first little conversation. Because he's talking to the cameras and he's like, oh man, like, I wasn't planned to discuss this. Like, I didn't really have anything that I was prepared to say or discuss with her. And that's just like a massive question mark to me, because I am always, day and day again, honestly astounded by the lack of self-reflection some of these men out here in these streets possess. Because it's like, at no point in time did it cross your mind when you were actively getting yourself up out of your house, out of your state, traveling en route to meet this bachelorette. At no point in your mind did it occur to you to think about, I've interacted with this person before. Let me reflect on that interaction. Let me think about what went wrong, what went right, and what I can do better when I inevitably, by choice, go to see her again. At no point in time did that occur to him. It's appalling. It's confusing. It doesn't make sense how people move through this planet with no sense of self-reflection. Like, I will never understand it. It does not make sense to me. So I hope that he is able to, along this journey, garner those skills. But I don't know how much hope I have for him. Anyway, Michelle decides to keep him. At this point, like, obviously, like I said, I can understand her reservations about this guy. I can understand why she's wary of his intentions and how he handles, you know, stressful situations or communication issues. But at the same time, she did make that decision to keep him, right? Like, she didn't decide for him to come to the show, but she did decide for him to stay on the show. So I feel like at this point moving forward, she can still have those reservations in the back of her mind, but I feel like she almost just kind of needs to let it go a little bit and just go into it with a more open mind and seeing what could actually come between them. So unclear what's going to happen with Joseph. I don't really know. I don't know where it's going to go, but I think it'll be interesting because I feel like this is not the last of his blunders. So then we have the whole Ryan debacle, Ryan interactions. I'm just going to let y'all know right now, fun fact about me, I'm from the South. I'm from North Carolina. I'm not really from, like, the country. Like, I'm from Charlotte originally, so, like, I've lived in cities my whole life, but I really like I like the country. I like country people. I like country accents. Like, that's something that I really enjoy and think is cool. So I will say, when Ryan was having his little promo clip or whatever at the beginning of the episode, I was like about to get excited. His little like raisin farm or whatever he was up to. I was like, okay, country boys, here we are. But I knew something was off because in his first confessional, he didn't have like a gold name tag. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but he was like sitting there kind of in the dark. They had really poor lighting for him. But he was just like sitting there talking about, this is who I am, this is what I'm up to, da da da, and there was no like name tag for us to remember his name. I guess now, for obvious reasons. But that did strike me as odd. But I really wanted to believe in him and get excited. Those hopes were quickly crushed because obviously we see Tayshia and Kaitlyn go in and find the folder in his room of all his secret plots of how to win the Bachelorette, essentially. And they don't bring it up to Michelle at first. They kind of let her make her own impression of Ryan. He rolls up in an ice cream truck and she really likes it. Like, how can you not? Like, that's a cute idea. It's fun. It gives you an excuse to kind of pull her to the side and you have an activity to enjoy together. So I thought that was thoughtful. I thought it was fun. So Michelle's kind of like, she's biting on the bait a little bit. He tells her that, you know, he's a Special Olympics coach. And of course, there's also nothing bad that you can say about that. So he's really just putting his best foot forward, presenting a good version of himself. And then Tayshia and Kaitlyn kind of come in and say, hey sis, this is what's really going on. Michelle, she goes up and she confronts him. She's like, I've heard about your folder. Tell me what the deal is. She does give him the chance to explain himself. And Ryan over here, I laughed out loud because this man, he was trying to grab her hands, like when he was explaining himself, and her hands, she didn't pull them away, but she was just so unfeeling, so unmoved by that gesture. Like, they were just like dead fish, like just very limp in her lap. So that was really hilarious. But Ryan is over here, he's making up lies, obviously. The thing about him, if you're gonna lie, be good at it. That's the other thing. That's another example of men not having any self-reflection skills. Like, you're coming on here and you know that you have this folder, you know that you're gonna have to like lie about it or cover it up or whatever, and you, in all this time, you and your friend's wife and whoever else spent crafting this folder, you didn't think of a good excuse. You didn't think of a good reason as to why you have all these creepy notes written down. It's confusing. It's odd. Like, I feel like it makes no sense, and I will never understand it because his story was changing every 2 minutes. First, he was like, "Oh, you know, I don't even watch the show. My friend's wife like made all these notes for me." And then he was like, "Oh, well, if I have watched the show, it's only for like 2 hours, like nothing more." And then he was like, "Oh, well, you know, I just watched the show and I just jotted down everything that Michelle likes." So who is it? Who is it, Ryan? Is it your friend's wife? Is it you? How long are you watching it? Like, it's not adding up, obviously, because you are not good at lying. Like, doesn't make any sense. Anyway. Michelle, she wants to go see the notes, and I love this, because I'm a person, if I'm in a situation that's, like, not adding up, that's very sus, I like to have as much evidence as possible. So I love that about her. I love that she went to go get the facts. She wasn't trying to hear him tangle up his words anymore. She wanted to see for herself, and, you know, the documents, they spoke for themselves. And she had to firmly walk him out. It was a very pathetic attempt that he gave to try to get her to give him one last chance or whatever. That was really awkward. I don't know why he thought that would be successful. Obviously it wasn't. I low-key wish this would have lasted a little bit longer. Like, I mean, of course Tayshia and Kaitlyn would have looked kind of sus if they had let this guy just like stay on without telling Michelle. Just for my sake, as a viewer that loves the drama, like, I would have low-key liked, because Michelle seemed to be kind of getting into him a little bit. So if he had stayed to like episode 2 or 3, I wouldn't have been mad at it, because I feel like it would have been more of a dramatic like goodbye, or more of a dramatic like battle in her mind about what to do. But of course, I'm here for Michelle. I want her to find love. So that's just a petty Betty in me speaking. So then the last guy that really stuck out to me was Nayte. And as soon as he came on the screen, y'all, like, He is so attractive. He's probably the cutest guy there, I think. I don't know. But he's the only guy that I had my sights set on. His face is so, like, he has a nice haircut. He has the eyebrows. He has the beard. Like, he has the earrings, the fashion, the height. Like, he's just total package. And I feel like, I really don't have to eat those words, because in addition to him being attractive, he also looks like the type of guy who knows he's attractive and is used to getting attention from women. And in the previews, they did hint that he is a little bit of a player vibe. So I feel like I'm going to end up eating these words. I really hope not, because I want to see him on my screen from now until December. But we'll just have to see. So he and Michelle, he comes out the limo. I have to say, for as cute as he is, his entrance didn't really move me. He's over here. He makes a pun about his own name, talking about it's too late. I don't even know what he said, but it was corny, and it was like, I was not amused. I would have been standing up there like, oh, I would have remembered your name without this corny joke. Thank you. Anyway. So he says that, and then the next time they speak is after Michelle makes her announcement about Ryan and him leaving, and he kind of pulls her to the side to check in on her. And I feel like we have the first, like, vulnerability moment of the season. He talks about how hard it is for him to open up to her, but he tells her about how his parents are maybe twice divorced. Unclear, because he says that his parents obviously are not together, but then his mom divorced from his stepdad. The details are a little murky, but he opens up about that and talks about, how that's affected him and how that has made him still persistent in his quest for love, but that he doesn't really know how to navigate it as much as someone who may have had that picture of marriage growing up. So they have a nice conversation about that. And then he obviously gets the first impression rose, and he also gets the first kiss of the night. So all around, it was a good night for Nayte. Like I said, I have high hopes for him, but I also have my eye on him because you really never know. So some other things that stuck out to me from tonight, or from the premiere, were, Tayshia and Kaitlyn were really fun during Katie's season. I'm so glad that they're back here for Michelle's season. Not only because I feel like they are invested in actually what's going on. I feel like with Chris Harrison, we would see him at the beginning and at the end and at the rose ceremonies, but there wasn't much else from him. There was not much life or personality. And I think that might have been the angle that The Bachelor was looking for when the series first started. I read somewhere that they wanted to find someone as, like, blank as possible as not to detract attention away from the leads and the contestants and stuff like that. But I like that these hosts are, like, fun, they're young, like, they're relatable, and I love that they're, peeking over the ledge, like, really invested in Michelle's journey and really, like, rooting for her and cheering her on and there to provide advice when she needs it. So I'm so glad to have this energy back. Also, y'all, I have missed fashion. I don't say I've missed my own fashion commentary, but I've missed having fashion and outfits to comment on, because Paradise, everyone was just wearing bathing suits the whole time, and that's not as interesting to me. So I'm glad that we're back to, like, ball gowns, date outfits, like, night fits, and tonight was no exception. So I loved Tayshia and Kaitlyn's first night dresses. I love in all black. You can never go wrong with a black dress. I also love it when they match or coordinate. They looked super cute. I love how they each, had their own styles, but they still looked cohesive as a unit. For Michelle's dress, I had a little bit of mixed feelings, I would say. I really liked the dress itself. Like, I liked the design of the dress. I liked the cutouts. I liked the front cutout and, like, the open back. Like, I really liked the concept. The color as much didn't do it for me. I felt like it didn't pop as much as it could have. Like, I feel like the color didn't live up to its potential. And I don't mean this rude, but I felt like the color was a little dull. Like, I feel like she's such a gem of a person. I feel like the color of her dress should match that, especially on the first night. Like, it just didn't grab my attention the way that it wanted to, the way that I wanted it to. But I know I've seen a lot of her promos and a lot of her like photo shoots that she's had that got released prior to the season. She's doing a lot in the gold family, so I'm not necessarily surprised that this is the dress she picked for the first night. And I think the color in general looks really good on her. I think it's just my perception of the dress. I don't by any means think that she looked bad or that the dress or color looked bad on her. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't a dress color that I would have picked out for her. Some other intros that I liked. Jamie, he seemed to have made a good impression on Michelle. He seems like someone who's, you know, easy to talk to, very gentle, calm spirit. I think he's like friendly. And so I don't know how far he's gonna go. I think he could make it like mid to late part of the season. I don't know if he's gonna be like her number one, but I feel like they are gonna have a pretty like solid relationship. Someone else who stuck out to me was Rick. I couldn't really understand his angle, or rather the producer's angle, because he had a fair amount of screen time, but I couldn't decide if it was due to him having like pretty much the most interesting like gimmick, or if it was like he genuinely is gonna have a connection with Michelle, right? Because like his table thing was like, it was interesting, like it was intriguing, like what's going on. You have the like scare effect or whatever, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I felt like when he revealed himself to her and like stepped out of the table and his little one-on-one interaction with her, like they had good banter. Like they were kind of like joking about the food, and like they were able to like go back and forth pretty quickly, like pretty easily. But I couldn't tell if it was just like friendship vibes. Like I don't know if I felt like a romantic spark from that interaction. But then again, he did get a lot of like attention and screen time. So I just don't know like what the angle is, or like where we're gonna go with his story. But I guess we'll have to find out. So, y'all, I am super excited for the rest of this season. Let me know in the comments, who was your favorite limo entrance, and who do you think is going to go really far this season? I'll meet you guys in the comments, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Brianna's Bachelor Breakdown.